This is a review for Chapter 8, Management 310, Test 3. Let's go. First term, behavior criteria. So this is basically just behavior. This whole chapter is focused on training, so this is, as they define it, the outcome of training. So I'm going to use a lot of examples to help us remember. Let's just say you work at Lush. They're known to have really friendly customer service. The behavior criteria would be how the employees interact with the public. Next is career management. So this is the process of setting career-related goals and how to achieve them. You could basically imagine what that would be if you're like, okay, I want to own a restaurant by the time I'm 30. That would be the goal, and then how to achieve it. I'm going to save up money to buy a brand of a restaurant chain. I forgot what that's called, but buy a franchise, etc. Just make steps. Next is case studies. So this is when participants analyze difficult business cases, and in training you might look at case studies like, okay, what happened in the past versus what would I do, etc. Next is e-learning. Y'all know what that means because Zoom. This is just online training. An example, I had to do it when I was coaching and reffing. You just get online, US Soccer website, look at all the rules, go through, okay, this is what I would do if like this player was going crazy at practice or I had to perform CPR, stuff like that. Next is executive coaching. This is individualized feedback to managers. So where that comes into executive coaching, executives are managers, and then coaching would be the feedback. So it's others coaching managers. Next is games and simulations. So this is, in this specific context, we're going to be referring to like different kind of teams. So this is when teams would basically gamify, which is our next word, gamify work environments. So you might have different teams in a company competing against each other. Maybe if it's like a sales company, you would be like, okay, you group of 5 people, you group of 5 people, you group of 5 people, all of you go out and try to sell this product, whoever sells the most. That would be an example of a game, like to make training more fun. I think gamification is actually what we're doing. So it says training made into a game or competition. Next is job rotation. So this is rotating employees to let them learn new skills. I personally don't know if I'd enjoy this. Whenever in soccer we would like change positions, I was always like, oof. Because once you got something down, you low-key don't want to switch around, but it also can be really helpful if there's like really versatile employees who want to develop a bunch of different skills, or if you are just trying to get your employees to learn different kinds of skills that their job might not let them practice. Next is learning criteria. So this is tests to see if the trainee is actually learning, which is a good idea. In school, we just call them like quizzes and tests, but learning criteria, if you're doing Excel, it might be like, okay, so this week we just learned about statistics, make a pivot table. It would be something measurable. Next is a metacognitive skill, and so this is a person's ability to step back and self-assess. And the etymology of that, meta means referring to self, so that's where like self-reflection is in the metacognitive, and then cognitive is any intellectual activity, so it's the ability to think about your own intellectual activity. Next is mindfulness training, and so this teaches people to notice things in a non-judgmental way. This is a good practice. They always say practice mindfulness. There's a lot of books out there right now for that, so it could be good outside the workplace too. Next is needs assessment. So this evaluates a company to see where training is actually needed. This is probably one of the most important terms in Chapter 8, a needs assessment. Even though customer relations might be a really good thing to train, if you have already hired a bunch of friendly employees, but none of them know how to work the cash register or how to ring up an item, you don't want to be training them in customer relations or customer service. You got to do a needs assessment and say, okay, where do we actually need to work on? Next is onboarding, or it's also called organizational socialization, which is 2 long words, but this is basically helping new employees adjust to the culture. And one way we do that is orientation process. And this is specific training to welcome new employees and inform them. So this is basically just like freshman orientation, but for a workplace. It's orientation process is just, okay, this is what our company's culture is like, this is what you need to know, these are the expectations, and we're excited you're here. Next is reactions criteria. And so this is an assessment of how trainees react to training. Speaking of meta, this is like Inception. Let me break down the layers. So this would be management assessing how trainees assess the training. So how do trainees react or assess? How do they respond to the training? Is it working for them? And then the management or the system above the trainees would say, okay, are these trainees doing good with the program that we're giving them? It sounds more fancy than it is. Reactions criteria. That's what it is. Results criteria. So this has to do more with business objectives. So are we getting the results from that training? Next is role plays. So this is when trainees pretend to be in difficult management situations to see what they would do and to equip them. Next is I always have trouble with this word, pardon me, efficacy, self-efficacy. So this is a person's belief that they can accomplish a task. This is a great example. Before I even tried to pronounce the word, I said, I have trouble doing this. So that would be low self-efficacy. But high self-efficacy is actually related to high performance. So you want to try to establish basically belief in self in the trainees so that they will actually accomplish the tasks successfully. Next is trainee motivation. And so this is sustained encouragement over a long period of time of new hires or new hirees. Our final word is training transfer. And this is the question of whether training actually works. The actual word for it doesn't quite make sense, but I guess maybe like transfer, like has the information actually transferred to the training? And this is also a long-term question. So over the long term, is our training good for our company? There you go. Good luck on the test.